So now we're in Kali Linux, and I'm already using the installation that I've used previously, but in this case I'm using an installation without BladeRF. So if we try to run, for example, the command for BladeRF, we won't get it up. So we'll just minimize, and then we will use this repository. So it's pretty simple, from what I can understand. We'll just we don't need to create a new directory. We'll just git clone it. And wait a few moments. There's a bit to download. And then we will look at the installation instructions. Let's see. So we need these utilities, but now we don't. These are actually directories inside here. I thought there were dependencies. So we need libusb, and that's optional. Qmake, we already got that. And let's see. So we're going to create a new directory called build. We don't really need to use the p flag. And qmake, see if it works. And make, we'll just do it with 4 jobs so it's compiling faster. So we waste less time waiting. And I like these new compilers that they're showing how far it is to being complete. And then we will run make install and ldconfig. And now we're going to test it by running the BladeRF-cli. I typically just type blade and then press tab. So let's try just the P option. And we may have to connect it to Kali first. Yes. So let's try and run it again. Let's see. It hasn't been found. That is because we're using a wrong controller. See, I actually got this issue earlier, and I was like, that's weird, it's not working, but everything else is working. So it's installed now, but the issue is that the USB controller that we're using by default is USB 2.0, and we need to use USB 3.0, and we need a kernel that's 3.2 or newer. Now Kali is using kernel version 4. something, 4.3, so that's fine. So we can upgrade the USB controller. Now when you upgrade the USB controller to USB 3.0, then you may have issues with the other tool that we've previously used called USB switcher, because I'm unable to use that with USB 3.0. So just beware of that. So we'll just click OK, and then it will just work a little bit. Just give it some time. It's just semi-restarting the virtual machine, and then we will just confirm that it's connected, and it is. Then we will try LSUSB again, and we can see that it is here now, so that's very nice. So now we can run BladeRF and see if it detects the BladeRF, and you can see that it's detected, so that's very good news. Now the next thing that we want to run is that we want to run it in interactive mode, And then we want to run, for example, version, just to check the firmware version. This is not the latest version, but if it works, don't upgrade it, even though upgrading may improve stability or some other stuff. But for now, I'm just sticking with this version. So let's try print as well. It's another useful command. It will show the bandwidth that's configured, the receiving frequency, the transmit frequency, some other stuff, and the bands that it has been configured to, and the gain levels, some sampling, and the clock thingy. And you can also run the help command. You can set the device settings from this console, but most of the programs that you're going to use will be able to set the BladeRF settings by themselves, so you don't have to use this console that much, or not at all really. But one thing that we need is that we need the FPGA. So I guess we can just download it. We don't really need to compile it from source. So we will just go to the Nuant website again, and then we will just click support and get the FPGA, get the one for our model, save, and then we will just copy and paste. I was copying pasting, was it not? Home, blade, paste. Good. So now it is here, and to load the FPGA, you just need to type the -L flag and then just host it like this. And if we just look at our BladeRF, we can see that the LEDs are now lighted up, so that means that we can use GQRX, for example, or not. So when you've used GQRX previously with an RTL SDR device, then you may have to change the settings, because otherwise it's not going to work. So you may have to run it 2 times to get the settings prompt up, unless you can specify a flag to force that prompt. But then you will select the device, sample rate, just 40. I think that's 40 million, yep. And that's fine, and then just click OK. And maybe it's not working. So we can, for example, try a tool like gr-GSM LiveMon. You may experience some issues with some programs like GQRX for unknown reasons, so we will just try this program instead. And I know that there should be some data here, so we'll just, and you can see that it's working. And here's the channel right here. It's actually here. So that's pretty neat. Now we can also try something else. We can try the, I'm not sure if this tool is installed. I guess it is. Osmocom FFT. That should work. And this tool is a bit more cool. Well, I think it's more cool. And then we will select 900 and see, it's only sampling 1. So let's say we want to make it 10 and also 10M. And now you can see some more stuff. You can even adjust the peak, and you can do some other cool stuff. So this tool is pretty neat as well, and you can even adjust these sliders. So, but these are just for looking at the display. They're not, you can record stuff, but you're not really you're not decoding it live with like GRGSM live mon, but you can do cool stuff. You can even do the trace thingy bob, so that's pretty cool too. So we can even take a look at, let's see, let's take a look at wireless at 2.4 gigahertz. Let's say 2.41. See, this is actually like wireless traffic going on. If we just set it to maybe 20, and also this one to 20. Now this program doesn't like, or it's not that good for a lot of, for like sampling a lot of stuff. For some reason, like it doesn't work that well, but it is pretty cool though. So we'll just, let's see if we can get some better stuff. Just restart the program. Just try again. And average, and then we'll just say 27. Yeah, it looks a little bit better now. Oh yeah, now you can see it a little bit better. So I think that's pretty cool. Maybe adjust it to 2.4 so we can see some other channels as well. Sometimes this program becomes a bit unresponsive, but you can see the wireless channel here, so that's pretty cool. At least I think it's cool. So you may want to use GQRX, the latest version. In that case, you can get it from GitHub. Just make sure that you're getting it from one of the official developers. And the process is almost straightforward as anything else that we have done so far. So you use git clone as usual, and then you wait until it's downloaded. And in this case, you will create a new directory called build. And for the BladeRF with the drivers installed, you will use qmake. If you haven't installed it, you can use apt-get install and then qmake. So you will use qmake as follows. If you use cmake, then you will get an error, and then you will have to fix that error. But if you just use qmake like this, it'll work. And next, you will just run make j4 and wait. And that's how simple it is when you've installed all the other dependencies. But generally speaking, if you followed the previous tutorials that I've done, then you can install it just as simple as I've just done, or just as easily. So now you just wait, and then in a few minutes, then it's finished compiling, and then we can run it. We can even install it if we want to. So if we wanted to install it after it has finished compiling, we would just run make install, and then we would run ld-config. But I'm just going to let it be in this directory for now, because yeah, I like having the other version too. But while this one is compiling, like sometimes you may get an error when you're running GQRX. Now I'm running the default version from Kali right now, and sometimes you're getting a crash, for example, like I am, and then it asks you if you want to reconfigure it, and you should select yes, because then you will get this prompt here without loading the program. Now, if you just select the BladeRF and you select something else and you click OK and you still get an error, try and select, for example, complex sampled IQ, and then just make sure just set it back to like some standard values or whatever. Just click this button once or twice and then just close the program and then run it again. But this time you use the BladeRF and make sure that you have set the sample rate to what you want, like maybe 25 or something. Then click OK and then just test that it's working. So let's just see if it has finished compiling. It has. So the nice thing about having a newer version of GQRX is that you have more options. So we will just expand this window a bit, move it over here so you can see everything. Check the device settings, that looks fine, yep. And click play. And as you can see, we got some nice signals and stuff. And in the newer version, you get some zoom settings. There's not a zoom setting in the version in Kali, so that's very nice that there's a zoom setting in this one. There are also other things that you can do, like you can use these settings here. You can see that there are more than one. Make sure that you use this slider first before you slide this one and this one. And you can also select the antennas, but not in this case, but you can do it with other programs. Let's see, what else is there? Sometimes it's useful to set the FFT size a bit more up, because by default when you're only sampling with like 1 or 2 megahertz at a time, then you don't really need as high an FFT, so you can even do with less. But you can see it gets a bit more grainy, so sometimes it's a lot better to use a higher FFT when you're sampling a lot more. But when you're using a high FFT, then your computer has to work a lot harder. So if I, for example, set it up to like 60 and I set it up to 50, it crashes. So it looks nice, you know. It's it's like super sharp, but my computer is actually working a bit hard to render all this information, because all these small pixels it's rendering in real time, so it's a bit too much. And that's even with a fairly fast computer, but it's only using the CPU. It's not using the graphics card as far as I know. And since I'm running it inside a VM, then it's not detecting the graphics card properly. It's using a virtual graphics card, which is it's okay, but it doesn't allow you to play some newer computer games, for example. You need some pass through for that. So in my case, I'm not even using an FFT this large because it's just it requires way too much CPU power. Amazingly enough, even with a new laptop that can run like Skyrim with like 100 mods and stuff like that. So, but generally speaking, you're good. You will be good enough for like 32 or 16. You can even do with less. It only makes it easier to see the different channels, as you can see in the gradients here. So that's quite important. And you can also adjust this dB range, so that's also quite nice. And this level here as well. So that's very nice. And the other stuff that we've already covered before. So that's how you compile and install the more recent version of GQRX in case you prefer to use that. So that's pretty much it. That's how you install and use BladeRF in Linux. Stay tuned and subscribe.